Fulfillment is an internal metric. Not a single person can tell you what will make you fulfilled. It's your own personal journey. It makes you really dive into your life and into your story and what you want to do to be fulfilled. And that doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. I always like to make that disclaimer. It's not about fulfillment is that you're always happy, everything's great. Because sometimes, to be fulfilled, you're on a journey that's hard, whether that's business or your personal life, and it's difficult. But when you sit back and think, you're like, I would rather be nowhere else because I'm on the path towards my fulfillment. I'm on the road to fulfillment. And so I think that's the big separation of success from fulfillment, is that at the end of the day, you can be as successful as you can be. You can have all the accolades, you can win all the awards, be touted as the most successful, but at the end of the day, you could still be miserable and unhappy. So the humans really shouldn't be pursuing success. They should be pursuing fulfillment.
This is a podcast where we go behind the scenes with visionaries and forward thinkers and game changers. And my guest today is somebody who is a heart-centered entrepreneur. He describes himself as an impact entrepreneur. And my guest today is Christan, and Christan is on a mission to start as many companies as possible that are going to do good in the world. Thank you so much for your time today, Christan, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
All right, awesome. I read your bio, and there's something you said that really, really touched me. You said you believe that everybody is here to make a positive impact in the world, a massive positive impact in the world. And just listening to it, just watching you and looking at the mission of Kardia, your company, all of that is so impactful. It's so heart-centered. It's so everything for me is just like, wow, these are the kind of people we need out here. Let's start at the beginning. Why do you do what you do?
I think that's probably a lot of different reasons from different angles that come into it. But I think from the beginning, I always loved entrepreneurship. I grew up in a small town in Canada on the West Coast on Vancouver Island. And when I first was introduced to business, I was actually because I went to a conference outside of my small town, and I just saw this opportunity that people can do to utilize business to be able to make a difference and train and educate and impact other people's lives. And so for me, it was made my eyes go wide open because I was so used to living in a smaller town where you're thinking that, this is really all that's there. But when I realized that this world is so much bigger and there's so much opportunity you can do to impact this world in a positive way through business, it just kind of got my heart for entrepreneurship back early on, even when I was 14 years old.
What were you doing at 14 that made you want to be an entrepreneur?
I think I went to a conference, like I had mentioned, that my mom was going to, which was like for a small business owners. And I kind of just saw that light of like being able to do impact work and business. And then I just tried a bunch of different businesses. So I had like a little vending box business when I was really young. And then I kind of got into finance. Actually, in my early 20s, I was recruited into a financial services company, which then I learned that angle and learned that impact of education in that industry is to help kind of families feel like more secure, more that they can kind of do things, and ultimately make them feel better about their journey when they're able to learn some of the principles that there are in the financial services world, that it makes them not feel like, hey, they're just, they're not smart or they're not doing things right. But they really can help people realize that it's usually about the education that they receive that stops them from being able to truly, have financial freedom or understand money a little bit better.
Okay. So at a young age, then, when you thought about wanting to make this impact in the world, how did you go about choosing the direction in which to impact the world?
I think that's a great question. And for me, I've always kind of been, just open to opportunities, open to this idea that I don't know what's out there, what's possible, because we live in our own worlds, right? Like if you're grown up, you have your own upbringing, you have your own circumstances, your own schooling. And so your view on the world is really limited by your own personal experiences or what you've read or what you've seen. So kind of from a young age, I had this philosophy that's like, at the end of the day, if I don't know something, it doesn't make it not real or not available or not possible. It's about seeking opportunities from the people around you. And so it was more important for me to set the intention of what I wanted to do compared to the exact thing I wanted to do. An example of that is like, I always have had the heart to serve and have people see their own worth so that they can ultimately go and live a fulfilled life. And so that's really what I would say is like my statement for what I want to do. And multiple avenues of business and work or things could get me there. But I was always open to say, okay, well, what opportunities come my way? And when I first started Kardia, as an example, it was in the financial services industry as its primary focus. And our goal was really to try to take that heart-centered approach to the financial services industry here in Canada. And over time, when I was open to this idea of serving and supporting people and this heart-centered business idea, I also got introduced into real estate at one point along the journey. And rather than saying, oh, I don't do real estate, I do financial planning or advising, it was the opportunity came and it made sense. And so we stepped into that, which really skyrocketed us into a whole new world, because I started learning this real estate space that led me now into a place where Kardia has completely transformed from a financial services company over the last 8 years to really looking at focused on more of an actual impact-driven and heart-centered boutique management consulting firm, right? Looking at projects all over the world that can focus on, we're looking at sustainable real estate, we look at water and food security, we look at green energy production and health and wellness. And so all of those things were kind of pathways that went down because we were open to do that heart-centered work, to do that business, to really serve and support the communities that we're in. And so really the opportunities came because I was open to know that other people are going to bring ideas and thoughts that I can kind of help put my expertise towards to help expand and grow.
You know, the interesting thing about what you said there is that, or the thing I'm picking from it is oftentimes we define ourselves by our professions. So you might have been defining yourself as I'm a financial services guy, or I'm this particular person. And most people are not able to make that mental shift to be like, okay, I can open myself up to other avenues and other ways of impacting. So what was the mindset for you? What was it that made you to be able to embrace all of that change?
You know what, I think when I have a great story. I was on a speaking tour in New Zealand, actually, on this thing called Inspire New Zealand. And we had the opportunity to go speak in the stadiums and engage, do workshops. But at one of the ones that were doing the event, there was this amazing singer that was local to New Zealand that was there. And so she got on stage, kind of the New Zealand people would say that she was like the Adele of New Zealand. She just had this incredible, powerful voice, really good stories inside of her music. And after kind of the event, and we were all out kind of having a drink and having dinner, I was just chatting with her. I just asked her, hey, like, what about this singing is that you are so passionate about? And she just said, I just love, having my lyrics and having my words impact people's lives, to see that they can go on and kind of live this beautiful world, live this beautiful life. And my lyrics and what I sing, I want to inspire people to be able to pursue that. And so I asked her, I'm like, well, what happens if you lose the ability to be a musician? You can't sing anymore for whatever reason. And she was like, oh man, I'd be so devastated. I wouldn't know what to do with myself, and it would just wreck my whole life. And so I asked her that for a particular reason, because I wanted to get to this point that I asked her after. My second question was, okay, but what if that thing you said you want to do, inspire people to be able to feel that they can live this beautiful life, what if you could do that other ways? What if it wasn't from just singing? What if you could do that by writing? What if you could do that by a different career path? And she said, oh, I'd be stoked. I'd be happy, and I'd still be fulfilled and happy. And so in an instant, it shifted from, no, it's not singing and you as a musician that is creating fulfillment in your life. It's actually this ability that you have to, whatever it may be, to inspire people to see the beauty in this world and live a beautiful life. And so for her, I think it was really nice for her to realize that, because I think as entrepreneurs, business people, parents, whatever it is, we get caught up in this idea that it's like we have to do this specific thing to get fulfillment or do the things we're called to. But really, it's more about what's the intention behind what we do, because that can never be taken away from you. And I think that's so important for people to not live these lives that they feel like they regret, that they're not doing what they're passionate about, they're excited about. Well, what is it underneath it that you really want to be doing?
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. And in a lot of the pieces I've heard you talk about, you always talk about fulfillment, right? You said your success absolutely means nothing without fulfillment.
Correct. Yes.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's kind of one of those sayings or those stories. I think this world, we get caught up in this pursuit of success.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, success is an external viewpoint on where we are and who we are and what we have. It's really, it's the opinions of others that really dictate whether we're successful or not.
Yeah.
And so, but the contrast though, so that's whether success is external, fulfillment is an internal metric. Not a single person can tell you what will make you fulfilled. It's your own personal journey. So it does two things. One, it makes you really dive into your life and into your story and what you want to do to be fulfilled, what makes you really have that joy. And that doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. I always like to make that disclaimer. It's not about fulfillment is that you're always happy, everything's great. Because sometimes, to be fulfilled, you're on a journey that's hard, whether that's
Mhm.
business or your personal life, and it's difficult. But when you sit back and think, you're like, I would rather be nowhere else because I'm on the path towards my fulfillment. I'm on the road to fulfillment. And so I think that's the big separation of success from fulfillment, is that at the end of the day, you can be as successful as you can be. You can have all the accolades, you can win all the awards, be touted as the most successful, fill in the blank. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you could still be miserable and unhappy. And so
Yeah.
for me, the pursuit of that makes no sense then. So the humans really shouldn't be pursuing success. They should be pursuing fulfillment.
Wow, that's beautiful. And are you familiar with the work of Gary Vee?
I've heard that there's things on social media and things like that. Of
Yeah.
course, I haven't like dove into it though.
Yeah, because he's one of those people who is always talking about something very similar to what you just said there, right? Because he talks about he wants to buy the jets, like one of his biggest dreams is to buy the jets. But he's saying if he ever gets to buy it, then it's gonna be like he doesn't even want to buy it. It's just the pursuit of it. It's just the
Yeah, yeah.
grind, the setting a goal that's so big out there that maybe you're not even gonna achieve it because it's all about the journey, right? How you enjoy the process of what you do. So
Yeah,
so
totally.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was saying too, I think it's about, obviously the pursuit of it, but it's also just understanding that it's like the fulfillment is also within that pursuit, because it's not an actual end line. It's really
Yeah.
looking at, like, if I, like for me, if I say that what really gives me fulfillment is the opportunity to be able to inspire others to see their worth, right? That
Hmm.
that doesn't really end, right? That's a constant. It's just something of who I am and why I'm here, I believe. And so because of that, there's no achievement level of it, which means that it allows me to be able to, whatever journey I'm on that path, it allows me to feel a sense of purpose in my actions and in my day and what I'm up to, rather than if it's like a level of like, here, I want to create success by reaching, like they said, the jets, like that we said, Gary Vee says, or I want to get this promotion to this role in a company that I'm in. If I don't get that, right, or you don't get that, well, what happens now to your
Yeah.
happiness, to your joy? Well, it
Yeah.
dissipates. It's gone because you can achieve something. So it's not necessarily I'm saying it's like, well, just be enjoying the journey of trying to achieve it. I'm actually trying to shift the entire narrative to say, no, focus on not the achievement mentality of the success mentality, but more to, can I be fulfillment in my life right now? And am I fulfilled in the journey I'm on, regardless of what it is?
Can you share with me what has been the most fulfilling client story you've worked with, a client transformation that you've experienced?
I think, yeah, that's a good one. I think there's been so many opportunities that I've worked with different people over the years, whether it's from back when my financial advising days to now when I'm working with our strategic partners and just, showing them an opportunity that they can have to achieve, what they're really hoping for their lives and their, life's purpose. So I think, kind of the smaller ones early on in my life would probably be definitely, I remember when I was first learning about the financial services world and understanding that space, I was teaching a lady and her family about just some pretty, basic principles, but basic as in like they're not advanced, but
Yeah.
not basic as in not everybody knows them. And so they were really running their whole life in the red, raising their couple kids, trying to put them through sports. And I remember just in one meeting showing a couple things, shifting a couple way of their payments were that she was instantly within one meeting by just changing a couple things, she was able to be in the black. She was able to not be going negative every month from a couple tweaks. And I think this, she sat in front of us and I was with one of my trainers and she just started crying because she had that sense of like relief that it's like, wow, I get to like, I don't have to be worried about that component, which was pretty awesome. And then also I think now just with my current business partners, I think it's amazing every time I get to chat with them and we talk about how we're all kind of on this mission to be able to look at that impact and heart-centered driven when it comes to building responsible communities. And I think that's another big, what I would say is like something I like as a story, that the three of us as partners, my partner Carolyn and Michael, we chat a lot about how, when we've came together, we have this big vision to go forward, but a lot of us at different parts of our lives, we're doing it on our own with our teams, of course, but now combined, now we're able to really put extra fuel to that fire and just, take quantum leaps towards our goals that we have when it relates to the impact that we want to create on this planet.
Wow, beautiful. So if you had a magic wand and you could make
Yeah.
any change in the world right now, what is it you're going to do?
Ooh, that's a good one. What would I do if I had a magic wand? You know what? I think I would probably look to change that everybody understands all the basics of the financial world. And what I mean by that is I think they would understand things that would allow them, regardless of whether they're a single mom working to just try provide for their family, or whether it's executive making good money, that they understand the basic lines that everybody can kind of create this financial freedom for themselves
Mhm.
through the tools that are out there that are available. And so I think that would be the change, because I think that would then create a ripple effect of being able to educate, train, teach people wherever they may be economically around the world. If you just teach them those principles, they can get to this, freedom in their areas, in their side. So it's not like a Western freedom where they get to have all those things, but it's more like in their own villages, their own towns and cities, wherever they are. If they get a baseline, I think that relieves a lot of stress, which then I think a lot of the brilliance that's out there could come about, and people can invent more things and solve more problems that could help this world.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think it's last year we met, right, in Calgary when Kennedy organized this conference. And one
Correct.
of the things that I keep saying, and it's one of the things that I keep saying all the times when I'm talking to my clients, is like, the person who controls your money pretty much controls your life. So if you could just take back control of that aspect of your life, then the choices that you can start to make, just to the point you're making, the choices you can make, the fulfillment that you would have, it unlocks
Yeah.
this thing, and it creates the ripple effect of you now being able to go ahead and do the other things that are in you, right? You can become this heart-centered entrepreneur. You can become, I don't know, you can go create your impact just because you don't
Totally.
have that thing holding you back anymore. So that's a good one. Wow. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So I want to go to some fun questions. Who are three people, dead or alive, that if you had the opportunity to have dinner with and have a conversation with, you would choose, and why? Three people.
Oh, that's great. Now, does it have to be like names or people that have like from history or even present that
Yeah.
have like gone and done things?
Yeah. People dead or alive. So from history, from influencers, anything could be, I don't know, anybody back all to the time of Jesus, right up until the time of newborn babies. Like, who would you want to sit with and have a conversation with, and why?
And I get to choose three.
Yes.
Hmm. Well, I think I would probably two of them for sure would be more of a direct personal thing for me. One, I think I would choose again to have a good old conversation with my mom that has passed away about a decade ago.
Oh,
Not
sorry.
to have this reminisce on normal conversation, but I feel like I would love. I think a lot of my passion for what I'm trying to do and changing this world and helping and serving people stem from the good that my mom taught me and the bad that I saw her experience in this world. And so I think just be able to have a candid conversation about her story and her life and where she was at. I never had that opportunity really. I lost her at in my mid 20s, but I hadn't like had that intellect to think about the bigger things at that point yet. And so I think I would do that. Would be an amazing conversation just to chat with my mom and just learn about how that has affected her and what she learned from life that allowed her to be such a strong, powerful woman that raised us kids, regardless of the circumstances, to believe in ourselves and to feel unconditional love. And I think that would be a great conversation, and I think that would be amazing. The other
That's
one
a
would be
good
my best
one.
friend. Yeah, thank you. The other one would be my best friend. Yesterday, I actually just wrote a post about him because he had about 10 years ago had committed suicide at 26 years old. And I was
Mm.
writing a post because nobody knew that he was even dealing with depression. There was only about five of us that did. And at his funeral, there was over 100 people there. And there was everyone was just baffled that this guy that was always the life of the party, caring, loving, would have committed suicide. It just didn't make sense to people. And so I think why I would say I would love having that conversation with him now is just knowing that we've came into a world now that I think is becoming more understanding that this depression thing isn't a definition of somebody or a weakness in somebody, but it's more of something that's there. It's some people call it disease, mental illness, whatever it may be. But to just have a conversation with him about like what is going on in your mind, like how does he feel things could have been said or helped him or understand for him to kind of unlock this viewpoint that we all as individuals had about him, but obviously for him got lost in the darkness of it. So to have that, I think that'd be another hard but deep conversation that I'd be able to have there, which would be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So that would be that. And then my last one, who would I talk to that's not kind of from a personal world? I think You know what? This is kind of maybe out of nowhere, but I would say the rapper DMX.
Oh,
And the
okay,
reason why I
why?
say that is he's very like he has like this rap, and I'm not saying I don't even really listen to his music definitely anymore. It's very obviously aggressive at times, but I feel like if people listen to his music, there's a lot of meaning and depth in his lyrics, and I feel like he was telling a story of his life and the heartaches and the pains and the things that he grew up. And I think he was a genuine, real person that lived those experiences and didn't just like talk about things or do things because he wanted to get famous or have clout. Because I think ultimately a lot of times he would deny interviews and not be part of that scene because he was making music because it was something he was passionate about. But also I think it was an outlet for him. And so I would love to, I've always thought of that, to sit down with him and say, like, what do these lyrics really mean? What are the stories behind it that have created that? What has like allowed you to, be in this space? And, he's probably in one of the top rappers in the world and through over history of people, probably many rappers or people in the scene would say that. But yeah, I think I'd love to just hear what's the story? What's the depth? What's the hurt, the pain behind all that? And what has allowed him to kind of be in the space that maybe hopefully has given him some sort of joy and understanding for his life.
Wow, those are beautiful. All three of them are, there's no right or wrong answer. All three of them are absolutely beautiful. And the reason for each and every single one of them is really beautiful. And it gives us more insight into who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about, for DMX, you talked about his pain, what it is that pushed him, like that was an outlet for him. And oftentimes, like when we go through life, we do have certain pains that, depending on maybe our mental state at the time, we choose to go one way or the other. The people who are able to
Totally.
learn from it go out and create something beautiful, and the people who are not able to process it in a way then end up the other way. And so it's beautiful to be able to see that everybody goes through that, and you can absolutely come through it. And if you can tap into it and use it to create something, then you can create something beautiful. Can you speak to that and how entrepreneurs could be able to tap into their pain and use that to fuel their mission, their purpose, their passion?
Yeah, well, I think all the emotions are real, right? They're all something that's telling us something. It's giving us a driving. I feel a lot of times we try to suppress our emotions and our feelings, and we try to, tell ourselves that it's not right, that I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't be this way. And I feel like it's an injustice to ourselves. It's an injustice to our human experience or to our journey. I've had a great opportunity to work with two very important mindset coaches that I've worked with for years, and one of them is Feel In, that works a lot in like the natural design phase of just like who we are, how do we perceive information, how do we do things. And another one, Colette Stryker, who invented and the founder of MAP Institute. But Colette was one of the last sessions that we did a few months ago. She was talking about, we're going through some stresses, we're going through some things in our world, and she came with this beautiful perspective, and she just said, Kristen, and you're talking about other business partners, well, just guys, go through the worst case scenario, right? Like,
Hmm.
just feel that, like,
Yeah.
because we spend so much of our time like sheltering that away. And she was like,
Yeah.
no, go through it. What if that happens? What if this happens? What if this negative thought that you have happens? What if, and she said, keep on going through the end till the end. Like, what is
Yeah.
that worst case scenario? And for me, what that experience, everyone will have their different experience, but I think it's a good thing to do in any circumstance you're going through in life and you're feeling stressed or worried. Run through that exercise. Allow yourself to feel how brutal it would feel, how crappy that would feel if something failed or something didn't happen. But then also what was powerful about it is, one, you recognize that most times your worst case scenario is not as bad as you think it's going to be, right? I think
Yeah.
that's number one. But number two, I think what's more important with it is it freed up that energy to not be focusing on what if and clouding it. You've expended the energy. You thought about it. It's just now it's gone. Now you can focus on just taking your steps forward towards the better outcome that you would like. Right. And so I think for me, for many years of my life, up until not working with these coaches and this side of it, I spent a lot of times hiding from the pain that was possible,
Yeah.
worrying about things that necessarily haven't happened yet, but could happen. And then all of a sudden you're spending all this time and energy, wasting away for something that might not even happen in the first place. And so I think for me, that was a very powerful process. And it looks to our pain, our sorrow, our stresses, just accepting it, owning it, and not always trying to find silver linings in it. we have we host a thing called Mindset Mondays in our company, and we had a guest speaker come out at one point, and he said just embrace the suck. Like
Mm.
sometimes it actually just sucks and it's crappy. And we don't need to try to justify it to say there's a silver lining. It's like sometimes there's just not, right? It was just shitty. And so it's just like, just accept that. And I think that it gives you so much freedom in life to recognize that your emotions can help guide you to where you want to be. If you're really worried about certain things, what's underneath that? What's the
Yeah.
worry that's there? Is it you're feeling like you're going to let people down? Are you feeling like is it an ego thing for you? Is it whatever it may be? If you really feel it, you can then help to adjust it and maybe look in the future, not have as many of those circumstances come up because you learned from them rather than hiding from them or running away from them.
Wow. Great. Wow. Okay. Think of an entrepreneur who is at the beginning of their journey right now, and they have heard about the principle of being a heart-centered business or being an impact-driven business. But most entrepreneurs, like, at the beginning, are thinking about the money of it. How do they
Mhm.
transition from that place to the impact that they're supposed to be creating?
I think for me, I don't really necessarily separate the two, to be honest. I feel like over the last 10 years, there's been this big wave of socially responsible companies, right? Or,
Yeah.
you have these companies where they now say I'm a socially responsible company. And a lot of times, what people perceive that to mean, and that's not necessarily what it does to everyone that says that's what they are, but means it's like, okay, I'm like, there's a philanthropist on this end of the scale, and there's a capitalist on this end of the scale. And so
Mm.
for me to be for me to be a social entrepreneur or like doing that, I'm going to have to do a little bit more help, a little more impact and support from a philanthropy standpoint. But as a result, I'm going to make less money. But if I make less money, I can do more impact. And I just don't believe in that philosophy. I don't think that's what this world is called for. I think it's really looking at more of a circle, right? It's like the more impact I make, the more money I make, the more impact I make, money I make, the more impact I make. And it's a circle, and there's not a line. And so
Yeah.
why I say it's as an entrepreneur, you're focusing on, and you're obviously, you got to pay the bills, you got to make your money, but you also got to make sure that in that pursuit you're doing the impact. And I honestly believe the more impact you do in your business and the more problems you're solving for other people, real problems, the more money you can make at it. And it's okay, and you can accept that, and you can be okay making outrageous amounts of money while you're doing outrageous amounts of impact. I think the
Yeah.
problem lies if you move away from that. If all you're doing is just making money and you don't really care what kind of work impact that has, I don't think that's a good outcome for an entrepreneur. And I also, on the flip side, I think as an entrepreneur, if you are actually entrepreneurial, I think it's actually really bad if all you're doing is just doing philanthropy and not giving back, because I think you're missing a skill set that you've been given to generate, economic drive as an entrepreneur. And so that's a different personality. You may not be an entrepreneur, and then, yeah, of course, be a philanthropist. That's all you're doing because that's what your heart is, and that's perfectly okay. But I think as an entrepreneur, you're designed to do both things at the same time and make them, work together for the common good. And I think
Yeah.
to really go through that, I think it's okay. I think the biggest challenge I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, especially if they are what naturally are the heart-centered or an impact-driven entrepreneur, I think the actual biggest problem for them is they actually think it's bad to make money, right? They think it's like if they're like not doing as much impact. And I think you got to get rid of that fallacy, because that's what's holding back a lot of this entrepreneurial world, a lot of this impact work that could be done. You need to have these entrepreneurs realize it's okay to make a lot of money. It's okay to have things. It's okay to do those things. It's just not okay to just do that. Make sure you're
Yeah.
doing it all together and you're supporting other people in that journey as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. So you talked about wanting to start as many businesses as possible that are going to do good in the world. You want to share some of those? I know about Kardia. Do you want to talk about more
Yeah,
of those that you do?
Yeah, I think for me, I think even the wording now isn't necessarily as about as many businesses as possible. It's more about supporting and creating opportunities for the businesses to thrive. And so for us at, say, Kardia, the company that I am one of the founders and now the COO of, is our focus is to really build responsible communities. And so that has those four pillars I talked about earlier mixed
Yeah.
into it, but it also really focuses on social, economic, and environmental drive. And so for me, I would have a long time ago thought, and this is kind of a big shift that I've had recently, which has been really cool, and a lot of help from my other business partner and our CEO of our company, Michael. And we were just talking about, like, for me, I always thought, hey, if I want to build a heart-centered business that serves its staff and does really, does sustainable, sourcing of materials, I have to just start this thing. I have to do it. And I have to start the business to run it. And really what I got my eye open through the many conversations that we were having is, no, we don't got to go and start a whole bunch of companies doing it. What we need to do is within the organization that we have. So say if we're building responsible communities. So say on one of our projects here in Canada, we're building buildings. People are going to be able to lease spaces to run their businesses rather than just leasing that building based on what them just being able to pay their lease, the company. No, let's make an actual, what we call an impact contract. So focus more on saying, hey, to be in our spaces, you have to do, maybe you're doing sustainable sourcing. You have things for your employees that you're able to serve and support them maybe on their fulfillment path, right? So there's all these things that we're putting together and evaluating what could it look like that way. Rather than starting the business, let's look at even our contracts for people coming into our spaces to kind of spread that idea that this is important to this next level of growth as entrepreneurs, as responsible communities. And then from that, we can then train more people, we can teach more people, we can produce material for way broader than if we narrow our minds to just think, what can I create? And so I think that was the big shift. It's more about how many people, organizations, businesses can we support through the work that we do to help them become more impactful, help them become more of a heart-centered business. Because then I think we're not limiting it to what, my ability is, what I can do or what my company can do on a day-to-day basis, but it spreads it out. That creates more of that movement towards organizations really believing that I can do good and make money at the same time. I can do, be responsible communities. I can have all those things and then not jeopardize the bigger vision that we have on both impact and on my revenue goals, right? So I think that's really been the shift for me, and that's the excitement that we have in the projects that we work on now.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you guys do that only in Calgary, Alberta, or you do it all over Canada and globally?
Yeah, so we're evaluating projects kind of all globally for sure. Looking at it, we're looking at this 2024 of a pretty exciting roadmap for ourselves and what was possible. So we're kind of, again, in that stage of evaluating projects in all different spaces that make sense, that we can create that socioeconomic and environmental change that we want to see, and looking for those strategic partners to partner with and support to help us grow in the vision that we have.
Okay. So when you're looking for partners, what is it you're looking for in them? If you want to share that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the we're for us, we're really looking at doing large scale, impactful projects, right? So things that are really going to help create jobs, going to help create more economic drive. It's going to look at the way that we do it from an environmental standpoint. And so really when it looks at the partners that we have, it depends on what area of our business. We're working with different on the business side or finance side. We're working with like larger family offices or organizations that are really wanting to invest into impact projects like that.
Yeah.
On the operational side, we're looking for partners that have these ideas for these larger scale developments or larger scale plans, but really maybe they're needing some of that management consulting that we do, that guidance, that capital kind of structuring that maybe we can offer support with. So really for us, it's organic though too, right? We don't sit there and say, we're looking at this region currently right now because things come to us. We hear about a cool project that's happening in Costa Rica, for example, and then we can talk with those founders, talk with those business owners, see if it makes sense for us to kind of help them develop their projects and make it, either larger or be more sustainable. And so for us, it's really we're looking for those heart-centered, impact-driven investors and people that want to invest, like organizations and family offices per se, as well as then founders of projects that are like really trying to do good in this world.
Okay. All right, beautiful. And one last question for you. So in general, for me, people hire me to do the accounting, taxes, bookkeeping, and stuff like that, mostly for Canadian companies. And one thing that I've seen a lot of people making mistakes is is that they wait until the last minute to even think that finances are important. What is a mistake that you have seen in working with a lot of companies that you see them making in terms of like just in general, what mistake do you see a lot of companies making?
Yeah, I think one of the things companies, even myself early in my career and as I've grown, mistakes that you do is that, really not having a good plan or tracking an organization of your capital, right? So regardless of whether you're bringing in 50,000, 100,000, 100 million, you should have a very rigorous system on processing that money, knowing where that goes, how it's tracked, what it's spent, because I think that's where then you can kind of see things in which you realize, oh, I don't need to be spending money there, or that's not good value of my money here. And then I think it'll help a lot more entrepreneurs kind of expand and grow a lot faster because they won't be wasting money on things. right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole thing in like personal finances when they go, every couple of months at least, look at your credit card statement and see where the bleed is, because sometimes people are paying for a subscription that they've been paying for years and they've never used, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same thing in the business. But if you're not tracking it, you won't know. So I think
Yeah.
that's very important.
Yeah. Awesome. That is beautiful. So if there's anybody who's listened so far and absolutely loves what you're doing, how can they reach out to you? How can they support what you're doing? How can they learn more from you?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to kind of go through is checking out hellokardia.com, and it's Kardia with a K. So it's hello and then Kardia.com. I think that really is the base of our website and what we do as an organization. Myself, I'm not really that active really on social media channels and things like that, but if you search my name, they will show up on some of the things whenever I do decide to post some stuff. But again, I am working on starting to do more, publish some more articles, do some more podcasts that are great, like this one with yourself. So yeah, if you're searching my name, you'll be able to find that out as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And one thing that you said, and I love it, your success is absolutely meaningless without fulfillment.
I fully stand by that and believe it 100%.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Christan. If there's anything else you wanted to leave with our audience before we wrap up for today, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. I think it's awesome that you're listening to these podcasts. You're wanting to learn and expand your business. I think for the last thing that I will say is just get really clear on what fulfillment means for you, right? Like, I think we need to stop pursuing that success, start really focusing and embodying this fulfillment. And it takes time, it takes effort for you to think about it. But once you get it, that is, never walk away from it. Know that that is the most important thing you can do for this world, for your family, for yourself, is living a fulfilled life. And it doesn't have to look any which way. It is what brings you fulfillment. It's a personal thing. It's an external thing, not an external. So just, if you make that your battle cry for yourself and you teach others, you raise your kids that way, you talk with your friends about that, I think this world is going to be that much better of a place, because we'll all be that much more happy. You'll see more smiles, and you'll see people, even when they're in the trenches, you'll know that they're fully committed to that trench because they know that they are fighting for their own personal fulfillment that ripples into the families around them, into their own relationships that they have. So I can't express that. I can't state it enough that your fulfillment matters.
Beautiful. Well, and with that, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for your time, and we're going to see you in the next episode. Thank you, Christan.
Thank you so much. I believe we are here to make impact on the world. Massive positive impact. And I ultimately believe that entrepreneurs are going to be the leaders in that area. That's why I chose to become an impact entrepreneur. And I'm on a mission to start as many companies as possible that are doing good in the world. Through every entrepreneur that I mentor, through every vision that I help define and redefine, none of us are here to just exist in mere mediocrity or just live by the status quo. We are here to take our great visions and turn them into reality. We are here to lead the way forward into ever increasing levels of success and brand new levels of greatness. I am here to help you find a faster way to your vision. I want to show you how to fuel your mission and get more done than you ever thought possible. Success is never created alone. So let's work together to make your vision become reality. And really, this world needs the impact that we can bring. So let's do it together. And always remember, success is absolutely meaningless without fulfillment.
For more insightful conversations with entrepreneurs, check out this video right here. I think you'll love it. Continue to enjoy, and I'll see you there.